Jacques Lacan. You've probably heard the name. He's known for being this brilliant, super controversial, and, let's be honest, seriously difficult French psychoanalyst. His ideas totally changed how we think about the mind, but trying to read his work can feel like trying to crack some impossible code. So today, we're going to try and find a key to that code, a simple way into his really complex world. And our journey is going to start with a mystery.
And we're going to do it by tackling this question. How can a stolen letter possibly reveal the secrets of the human mind? It sounds a little out there, I know, but we're going to follow Lacan himself as he breaks down a classic detective story, and he finds this perfect map of our own inner lives, hidden in its plot. Our investigation kicks off with an absolute masterpiece from Edgar Allan Poe, The Purloined Letter. For Lacan, this was so much more than just a clever whodunit. Okay, so picture this. We're in the royal palace. The queen gets a, let's say, compromising letter. And right as she's reading it, who walks in? The king. She has no time to hide it properly, so she's forced to just leave it right there on the table. You can just feel the tension, right? The stakes couldn't be higher. Then, at that exact moment, the very sly Minister D walks in. He takes one look, sees the letter, and understands the whole situation in a flash. And then he does something brilliant. He pulls off this incredible sleight of hand, swapping the Queen's precious letter with the worthless one from his own pocket. And then he just walks out holding all this power over her. The theft itself is this incredible power play, and it only works because the king is completely oblivious to what's happening right in front of him. So the police get called in, and for 18 months, a year and a half, they conduct this insanely microscopic search. They tear the minister's entire residence apart. They're looking everywhere. And after all that time, all that effort, they find absolutely nothing. They were using brute force, looking for a cleverly hidden object, but they were completely missing the point. And then our hero, the detective Dupin, shows up and solves the whole thing in minutes. He realizes the minister is too smart to use a complex hiding spot. So where was it? He just left it out in the open, disguised as some junk mail in a letter rack. It was hidden in plain sight. The police couldn't see it because they were looking for something hidden, not something staring them right in the face. And this right here is where Lacan's analysis really begins. You see, for Lacan, this story wasn't just a fun detective yarn. It was the perfect allegory for how our minds are structured. It's not about what's very deep inside us, but about the systems that are operating right on the surface. And here is Lacan's genius insight. We never find out what's actually in the letter. And the crucial point, the whole point, is it doesn't matter. The content is totally irrelevant. The letter's power comes entirely from its position, from the fact that it exists and that its displacement has thrown this whole web of relationships between the king, queen, and minister into complete chaos. This brings us to a huge Lacanian concept, the signifier. That letter is a pure signifier. It's an element, like a word or a law, that has no real meaning in and of itself. It gets all its power from its place in a network of other signifiers. Lacan calls this giant network the symbolic order. It's the world of language, social rules, and laws that we are all born into. It's the rules of the game. Okay, so this leads to a pretty profound question, right? If our reality is just a game run by these empty signifiers, then who are we? Who's the person, the subject, actually playing this game? Well, Lacan's answer is pretty radical. As he puts it right here, we are fundamentally divided. The conscious I that we all think we are, that's just a tiny piece of the puzzle. There's another part of us thinking, a part that our conscious ego has no clue about. This is the idea of the divided subject. Lacan argues that we don't use language. In a very real sense, language uses us. We are spoken by this symbolic order before we ever say a single word. Our identity, our sense of self, is really just an effect of this external structure. So the unconscious isn't some deep, dark, primitive place inside us. It's what he calls the discourse of the other. It's the rules and the language of the outside world that have made us who we are. So Think of it this way. First, there's this massive system of rules and language, the symbolic order, that's been around long before any of us. Second, we are born right into it, and it assigns us a spot. And third, that position, just like the queen's position or the minister's position, is what ultimately defines our entire reality and our identity.
But this division, this split right at the very heart of who we are, isn't just some philosophical point. It has a huge, massive consequence. It's the thing that creates desire itself.
Because we're split between our conscious self and this unconscious that's structured by the other, there's a permanent gap, a fundamental lack, right at the center of our being. We're never quite whole. But for Lacan, this isn't some tragedy. This lack is the very thing that drives us. It's the perpetual engine of all human desire. And this brings us to the famous and famously tricky objet A. The best way to think about it is like a phantom limb of the psyche. It's that little piece of ourselves we feel we lost when we entered into language and society. And here's the key. It is the cause of our desire, not the goal of our desire. We chase after things thinking they will finally make us whole, but the objet A is the very void that keeps us chasing. And the purloined letter? It functions just like that. It's a placeholder for this lack, this pure nothingness that's driving everyone in the story.
Now, in his later work, Lacan became kind of obsessed. He wanted to find a more rigorous, almost mathematical way to map out these really complex relationships of the mind. He started to feel that language, with all its messiness and ambiguity, just wasn't precise enough for what he was trying to do. So he turned to topology, a branch of math that studies the properties of knots, surfaces, and shapes. He wanted a language that could describe pure structure without getting lost in interpretation.
And he used this new tool to map out his 3 orders of the psyche. There's the symbolic, which we've been talking about, the world of language and law. Then there's the imaginary, that's the realm of images, of identity, the ego, how we see ourselves. And finally, there's the real. This is the stuff that resists being put into words or images. It's the traumatic, unspeakable core of existence. And his final, most elegant model for all this was something called the Borromean knot. It's a structure made of 3 rings, representing the real, the symbolic, and the imaginary. And they're linked together in this really unique way. They hold each other in place, but if you cut any single one of the rings, the other 2 fall apart completely. For Lacan, this was it. This was the structure of a human being, a delicate knot holding these 3 dimensions together in this inseparable tension. So let's bring it all back home. By following the path of a simple stolen letter, we've actually uncovered a pretty radical new way of thinking about the self. It all comes back to this one very famous statement. The unconscious isn't some deep personal secret buried inside you. It is the discourse of the other. It's that external system of rules, language, and symbols that speaks through us, shaping our desires, our identity, our whole reality. And that leaves us with a final, really provocative thought to chew on. What if the key to understanding ourselves isn't about digging deeper and deeper into our own private history? What if the most profound truths about who we are have been right there all along, structuring our lives from the outside, hidden in plain sight?